I want to thank the Orthodox Union for this opportunity to make this presentation about the myths of marriage. I want to thank Rabbi Stephen Weil, the board of the OU, especially Mr. Frank Buchweitz, and compliment the OU on the wonderful parenting and marriage programs that it presents throughout the year for the entire Jewish community. We are now counting Sphira each night. In the Jewish calendar, we count from the Yom Tov of Pesach, the time of the engagement of Bnei Israel to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and culminating with the Yom Tov of Shavuot, when Har Sinai was suspended above our heads as our chuppah, and the marriage document, or ksuba, was the Torah. I thought it fitting to begin with a Devar Torah that I heard from Rav Ruvain Bilowitz Shlita, who is a member of the Highland Park, New Jersey Kollel and leader of the Young Families Minyan. Highland Park is where I have a private practice which specializes in couples therapy and parenting advice. In my 3 decades of couples counseling, I am proud of my 80% success rate in keeping marriages thriving. I also write a monthly family and parenting column for the Home News Tribune of New Jersey and created and write for the website familythinking.com. Rav Bilowitz explains, the Gemara in Sota records that Rabbi Akiva proclaimed, based on the Hebrew spelling of the words for Ish and Isha, that if a man and his wife merit, the Shekhinah will be between them. But if they do not merit, they will be consumed by fire. Rabbi Akiva's description of the Shekhinah being between them seems peculiar. It would seem more appropriate to say that the Shekhinah was on them or in them. Why between? This demonstrates that the true resting place for the divine presence is in the fabric which unites people together, and specifically the bond of man and wife. No one person, as great or as holy as he or she may be, can become a true resting place for the Shekhinah. Only the strong but intangible bond of love and unity between man and wife can provide a resting place for the Shekhinah. This idea is represented clearly in the ultimate resting place of the Shekhinah, the Beis HaMikdash. From where did the Shekhinah emanate to the Beis HaMikdash and to the entire world? From between the Keruvim, a representation of man and wife. As a couples therapist, my challenge is that I am not just working with the husband, and I'm not just working with the wife, I'm working with something that exists between them, which is the marriage commitment that they made publicly in front of family, friends, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Or, as the clever and concise Dr. Frank Pittman, a psychiatrist in Atlanta, emphasizes, marriage is not supposed to make you happy. It's supposed to make you married. This now is a condensed version of my top 10 myths lecture, because I'm only going to be presenting the first 4 myths with some helpful marital tips as well. This list is not specific to the Jewish community, and it was created by 2 outstanding sociologists at the National Marriage Project, which used to be based in Rutgers University and now is in University of Virginia. The first 4 are of particular interest to me, and for the last 6, I will refer you to the National Marriage Project website. Myth number 1. Marriage benefits men much more than women. Contrary to earlier and widely publicized reports, recent research finds that men and women benefit about equally from marriage, although in different ways. Both men and women live longer, happier, healthier, and wealthier lives when they are married. Husbands typically gain greater health benefits, while wives gain greater financial benefits. Now, what's important to understand is that marriage makes you healthier, physically, psychologically, and financially, but children, which I'll discuss in myth number 2, have the opposite effect on most individuals. The best compilation of research on the benefits of marriage that I've come across is Linda Waite and Maggie Gallagher's book, The Case for Marriage. Myth number 2, having children typically brings a married couple closer together and increases marital happiness. Numerous research studies have shown that marital satisfaction declines with the arrival of each child, and it is cumulative. I describe this in great detail in my own book, Creating Your Perfect Family Size. The more children that you have, the greater the decrease. Professor Jay Belsky, formerly of the University of Pennsylvania, a top researcher in this field, analyzed this decrease in marital satisfaction in a very helpful way. He found 4 categories of couples. 13% of couples experience a severe decline in marital satisfaction. 38% of couples, a moderate decline. Together, those 2 categories are over 50%, and that's why we say that generally there is a decline in marital satisfaction. But 30% of couples experience no change in marital satisfaction, and 19% of couples experience an improvement in marital satisfaction. That's a different way of looking at that data. Why does this decline occur? What is it about having a baby that decreases marital satisfaction? First, financial. Expenses related to a child's food, clothing, housing, and education. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the expenses related to raising one child from birth to age 17, and of course we're not talking about day school education at this point, for a couple whose before-tax income is $99,000, want to guess? $367,000 per child, plus 4 years at a private college, which is another $137,000, for a grand total of over $500,000 per child. And I think it's very safe for us to say, and all of my children attended Jewish camps and Jewish day schools as well, that the budgeted cost should be doubled for families with children in day schools to $1 million per child. Additional stress related to finances includes employment and career. One spouse will likely work less than they did prior to the birth of the baby, and daycare enters into the picture as well. Another aspect of the decline is the health of the mother. Recovering from delivery, possible postpartum depression, and everybody's nightmare, the parental sleep deprivation experiment. Interpersonal. There's less time for couples to relax and talk, less time to put into themselves as a couple, including time for dating, and certainly less time for intimacy. Here is an important take-home message and some specific tips for couples who well understand the decline in marital satisfaction that's associated with children. Establish couples time each night. Here's something you can try in the comfort of your own home. It's how Professor Bill Doherty describes his own coffee ritual with his wife, Leah. After dinner, we would clean up, give the kids dessert, start the coffee, and then send the children off to play. We taught them to leave us in peace while we had our coffee so that we could talk. We asked them not to interrupt us unless the house is burning or on something equivalent, in which case they can always call 911 and then interrupt us. This ritual gave us about 15 minutes every day to talk as a couple. We do it to this day, even though our children have grown and left home. What we're doing with this coffee ritual is an emotional check-in. It's, how are you doing? What has your day been like? Just a check-in. No problem solving, no logistics, just savoring a brief interlude of personal conversation every day of our married lives. Next, set a date night weekly and stick to it. It doesn't need to be elaborate or expensive, but it needs to be established and respected, not something that you cancel when anything comes up. Take a brief getaway vacation together once or twice a year and try not to settle too far from your extended family so they can provide you with free babysitting and a lot more. Maintaining close contact with grandchildren helps everyone. So how do we increase marital satisfaction and raise happy children too? Another take-home message and more useful tips. The 6 characteristics that are most important in facilitating a husband and wife's smooth passage through the transition to parenthood are the ability to surrender individual goals and work together as a team, The ability to resolve differences about division of labor, which means household chores, and work issues, that's related to employment, in a mutually satisfactory manner. To handle stress in a way that does not overstress one's spouse. To maintain a pool of common interests despite diverging priorities. To realize that however good a marriage becomes post-baby, it will never be good in the same way it was pre-baby. And last, to maintain the ability to communicate in a way that continues to nurture the marriage. Myth number 3. The keys to long-term marital success are good luck and romantic love. This is very relevant to Jewish couples, since the first thing we shout out at the conclusion of the chuppah is Mazel Tov, good luck. But rather than luck and love, the most common reasons that couples give for their long-term marital success are commitment and companionship. They define their marriage as a creation that has taken hard work and dedication to each other and to the institution of marriage. The happiest couples are friends who share their lives and are compatible in interests and values. On the topic of hard work and dedication that marriage requires, nobody describes it better than comedian Dave Barry, who writes, "For a relationship to succeed, both parties must be willing to work. Work, work, work. That's the key. Endless, constant, extremely difficult, unpaid work. More work than is involved in the construction of major bridges and tunnels. I am getting very tired just thinking about it." I ask you, how often does the word work have an enjoyable connotation? Thanks to Adam Arishon, we're only able to eat by the sweat of our brow. Bizat apecha tochal lechem. Does that sound like fun to you? Are a lot of young people going to be sprinting toward the institution of marriage if we tell them, are you aware that a successful marriage takes a lot of hard work? Instead of work, couldn't we soften it a bit by saying effort? Or would it be a bit more palatable if we referred to it as an investment, or say that a good marriage needs a lot of nurturing, like what I described earlier regarding myth number 1? Now, where do we get this idea of marital success being tied to romantic love? Hollywood, the entertainment business, and hundreds of romance novels. Love stories make great entertainment. But isn't the romantic love scenario what a marriage is supposed to be? Unsustainable, says Dr. Helen Fisher, who is an anthropologist at Rutgers University. Our brains cannot sustain the chemicals needed for infatuation. Infatuation lasts a maximum of 18 months, maybe a little longer, and then the revved up state of bliss ends as your PEA and other amphetamine-like brain chemicals begin to drop. What follows is the warm, comfortable, and secure feeling that Fisher labels attachment. New chemicals in the brain take over called endorphins, short for endogenous morphines. Yes, they're really similar to morphine, an opiate, which is a narcotic. These brain chemicals calm the mind, kill pain, and reduce anxiety. That's why so many of us long-term married guys, I'm married 33 years, walk around all day long saying, yes, dear, because we're drugged up on attachment to our spouses. The take-home message is clear. Infatuation is a temporary state of elation, and that's perfectly normal. Attachment lasts a lifetime. The last point on this myth is the happiest couples are friends who share their lives and are compatible in interests and values. Along comes psychologist John Mordechai Gottman, wonder if he's Jewish, and he brought hundreds of couples into his love lab in Seattle and videotaped them talking, negotiating, and acting like normal couples while he checked their heart rate, their blood sugar levels, and their body temperature. In his book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, Gottman states the determining factor in whether wives feel satisfied with the intimacy, romance, and passion in their marriage is by 70% the qualities of the couple's friendship. For men, the determining factor is by 70% the qualities of the couple's friendship. Gottman concludes, some men and women do come from the same planet after all. Myth number 4. People can't be expected to stay in marriage for a long time as they did in the past because we live so much longer today. Unless our comparison goes back 100 years, there's no basis for this belief. The enormous increase in longevity is due mainly to a steep reduction in infant mortality. And while adults today can expect to live longer than their grandparents, they also tend to marry at a later age. The lifespan of a typical divorce-free marriage, therefore, has not changed much in the past 50 years. Also, many couples call it quits long before they get to a significant anniversary. Half of all divorces take place by the 7th year of marriage. I'll tell you another sad statistic. The divorce rate in the United States still hovers at 50%. And another sad statistic. 2/3 of divorces in the United States end what are labeled good enough marriages, not high conflict marriages, which should end. Rav Moshe Tendler Shlita told me that he doesn't think that the divorce rate has skyrocketed in recent years. Rather, the stigma associated with divorce has disappeared. And my final piece of take-home advice is seek help for your marriage when you detect problems, not when you are ready to throw in the towel. Unfortunately, 2/3 of divorcing couples did not even receive 1 hour of counseling, and I think that's a tragedy. Nevertheless, I'm optimistic because of what Golda Meir said. Pessimism is a luxury that a Jew can never allow him or herself. May it be Hashem's will that family well-being increases in Jewish homes everywhere, and that the divorce rate decreases. In the words of Rav Bilowitz, only the strong but intangible bond of love and unity between man and wife can provide a resting place for the Shekhinah. This talk is not meant to be a monologue, but rather a conversation. So please keep in touch by emailing me at dralansinger@aol.com or by visiting familythinking.com. Thank you for your time and attention. Each night. In the Jewish calendar, we count from the Yom Tov of Pesach, the time of the engagement of Bnei Yisrael to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and culminating with the Yom Tov of Shavuot, when Har Sinai was suspended above our heads as our chuppah, and the marriage document, or ksuba, was the Torah. I thought it fitting to begin with a Devar Torah that I heard from Rav Ruvain Bilowitz Shlita, who is a member of the Highland Park, New Jersey Kollel and leader of the Young Families Minyan. Highland Park is where I have a private. The Shekhinah will be between them, but if they do not merit, they will be consumed by fire. Rabbi Akiva's description of the Shekhinah being between them seems peculiar. It would seem more appropriate to say that the Shekhinah was on them or in them. Why between? This demonstrates that the true resting place for the divine presence is in the fabric which unites people together, and specifically the bond of man and wife. No one person, as great or I want to thank the Orthodox Union for this opportunity to make this presentation about the myths of marriage. I want to thank Rabbi Stephen Weil, the board of the OU, especially Mr. Frank Buchweitz, and compliment the OU on the wonderful parenting and marriage programs that it presents throughout the year for the entire Jewish community. We are now counting Sphira, practice which specializes in couples therapy and parenting advice. In my 3 decades of couples counseling, I am proud of my 80% success rate in keeping marriages thriving. I also write a monthly family and parenting column for the Home News Tribune of New Jersey and created and write for the website familythinking.com. Rav Bilowitz explains, the Gemara in Sota records that Rebbe Akiva proclaimed, based on the Hebrew spelling of the words for Ish and Isha, that if a man and his wife merit, as holy as he or she may be, can become a true resting place for the Shekhinah. Only the strong but intangible bond of love and unity between man and wife can provide a resting place for the Shekhinah. This idea is represented clearly in the ultimate resting place of the Shekhinah, the Beis HaMikdash. From where did the Shekhinah emanate to the Beis HaMikdash and to the entire world? From between the Keruvim, a representation of man and wife. As a couples therapist, my challenge is that I am not just working